not too
Oh,
far.
now we're live.
There we are.
The
Oh,
world knows where you're going now, Gwen.
Okay. I'd like to call the regular council meeting of September the 14th to order. First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
Move
So
approval.
moved.
Second.
All in favor?
I have a thing
Mhm.
for the agenda. So I had emailed everybody another article from the Walrus. I believe it's another article based on housing solutions based out of Portland. So I think I've set it up so I can share my screen if I need to. I'm not sure if I have that ability on here, but so I wanted to add that to the referral from Councillor Kettler to the homelessness committee, if council is okay with that.
What is your pleasure? Do you wish it to be added?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I did read the article previously, and yeah, there's lots of good stuff. So I think both articles are worthy of passing on to the housing committee.
Everyone else?
Sounds good.
Okay. So I move the approval of the agenda with the addition.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Next, minutes.
Move adoption.
second.
All in favor? Carried. Receipt of minutes.
Move receipt.
Second.
All in favor? Carried. There's no delegations. Unfinished business. Last council meeting, we had Hugh Fletcher from the ILO and the King George having a request put forward to council. And this is the recommendation from staff. If you're in agreement, you can move it.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Oh,
Yeah, so the recommendation is that they that staff prepare a report summarizing it. Was there a referral to committees?
Not at this point. I
Okay.
think what it will come back, the report, and then we can refer that. Because it will have recommendations in it.
Okay.
At this point, there isn't any. Okay.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. All in favor? Carried. I've lost Councillor Spruill.
Uh-oh.
And I thought it was me that was going to get disconnected.
it could happen to me at any minute also. It seems.
Yes.
Yes, your worship, she has dropped off, so we will try and get her back just momentarily here.
Okay.
Should we continue?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to. Okay. Next is correspondence that council received the correspondence from David Frisch, Chair CBRD Sewage Commission regarding the use of Skyrocket for municipal landscaping.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Carried. Would somebody like to start the discussion? Or
yeah, so it's basically coming from the Sewage Commission, but I think it was a discussion of broader group as well about best use of compost. And because the curbside food waste program produces such high quality compost, there was a feeling that it shouldn't be used for landscaping, and that Skyrocket would be a better product for using for municipal landscaping for Cumberland and Comox. So they want to offer the Skyrocket in place of the food waste compost and have more of the higher quality compost going to growing food in the valley.
Councillor Brown?
Yeah, I really like the distinction and moving that distinction more into the public realm between Skyrocket and the curbside compost, because I think there might be some confusion in the public around where that compost is coming from and what the difference between Skyrocket and the curbside pickup is, the other compost. So and I do think it is the highest and best use to be growing food with that compost. So absolutely, let's do that and use the Skyrocket for our municipal landscaping.
Okay. Councillor Kettler?
Yeah, I was just wondering if, well, I don't know exactly what we have in the contract for the pilot program, and whether that use of the high quality food compost was sort of indefinite as long as that pilot was running, or what agreement we have, because I think they're saying that they will give free Skyrocket until 2022. And so I'm not sure if that's as good of a deal for us, you know, based on the length of the contract. I'm not sure if that benefits Cumberland long term or not, or if that was going to be renegotiated once this program turns into a full composting, curbside composting program, as opposed to a pilot. So that was something I was going to ask staff to look into. How long was the initial duration of this free food compost supposed to come to Cumberland? And was it supposed to end in 2022, or would we have got that free compost longer than what they're offering the Skyrocket for?
I remember that when we were offered it, that it was only Comox and Cumberland that were doing the food organics program. And as we were giving so much of the product, that they felt we should get it back as thank you for what we were doing. But I don't remember it having a time frame to it, because we were a pilot project. But I think that's a good question and it should be asked. I agree with it, that we should be doing it and letting them sell the kitchen organics for the food waste. But I think we also need to look after what we need to look after in making sure that if we have the opportunity to get it afterwards, what the rules will be concerning that.
And if we did want access to it again, say if we came up with a really awesome community garden or something and we wanted to use the food compost again, would we have access to it? I think that's something else to ask staff to be part of a future contract.
Okay, Councillor Sullivan?
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, if there's a difference in the costs of producing it. And also in 2022, they're hoping that the new site in Campbell River, I think, is going to be going on. So stuff will change when that happens, certainly. Or maybe not. I don't know.
Okay. Councillor Sproul, thank you for coming back.
I got cut off, but it mysteriously just came back on again. Anyway, so I missed a whole bunch. But I did read this about the Skyrocket. But the Skyrocket itself cannot be used for food, right? Because of pharmaceutical, even if there's no pathogens, it has heavy metals and stuff. Does anybody know that?
Well, it said in the report that it's not, it doesn't have a limit on its use. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just people's perception.
Optics.
Oh, you mean it is safe, Skyrocket?
Yes.
But
Mhm.
yeah, oh, well, I find that, yeah, so.
So we have a number of questions. So somebody form that into a motion and we will proceed. You want to refer it to staff to ask those questions?
Yeah, did staff catch what the questions were?
Your worship, yeah, so I mean, certainly something, I think the intent of the second recommendation was to hopefully that we would be able to go back and get some confirmation on availability of the product, to confirm that there is no cost to the village. And certainly if there are any changes to that, we'd report back to council. But at this point in time, if it is just using the product as we have in the past, and there is the Skyrocket is available to substitute, then certainly that our staff would be able to continue the existing program at no cost to the village and utilize it for the existing uses that we do. So we can ask those questions that were brought forward, and if there is any need for further clarification, we can bring it back to council if that works.
Yes, Councillor Sproul?
Yes, because I missed all that. Where does the organic compost, the food compost, go at the moment? Where is it being stored, used? Is that what's going on our municipal parks?
Yes.
The good stuff,
Yes.
the non-Skyrocket.
Mhm.
Okay. So the idea is to use Skyrocket and the food compost will go to food production. Is that what I understand?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So someone make the motion, please.
Oh.
That council thank the CVRD Sewage Commission for the opportunity to use Skyrocket composting product and refer the correspondence to staff for reply to the CVRD.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Seconded.
Second, all in favor? Carried. Next, recommend that council receive the Bevan Industrial Lands Conceptual Master Plan Report implementation.
Move receipt.
Second.
All in favor? Carried.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Everyone can hear me all right?
Yep.
In front of you again, I'm happy to present a follow-up from our last committee of the whole meeting. And this is the report on Bevan on the outcomes of our conversation with the Economic Steering Committee, as you had referred the report to them. Within the report, you will find a few recommendations. One, the receipt of this report, but as well that council approve the conceptual master plan report and direct staff to include the recommendations and information that's within it into future economic development or other planning work for this area. And also that we be considerate of any budget needs and discussions in futures and making sure that the Bevan piece is part of those discussions moving forward. And this all help as we move forward on the implementation and how we utilize this concept report. I took the concept report to the committee on September 2nd and had quite a nice discussion. They're very familiar with this report, and this is one of the feedbacks they gave, is they're quite happy to see the iterations, the changes of this report over time in response to the feedback, both that they gave through the committee, but was also garnered through the stakeholder process. And notably the ecological work and the work around the protection of both the Morrison Creek stream, as well as the watershed. And this was echoed as well by the CVRD. And so they were quite happy to accept the report and acknowledge the work that went into it. They also acknowledged that perhaps a short sight was that we neglected to acknowledge that the Bevan lands are, of course, home and located on the unceded traditional territories of Comox. So we'll certainly make sure that adjustment is corrected. And they, again, encourage that this ongoing implementation, the use of this report in sort of the processes that we utilize when we develop the Bevan lands. As far as sort of next steps, again, with referring back to our recommendations, that staff incorporate the report and recommendations. There's quite a bit of information in there. So Certainly as development takes shape in its own way out in Bevan, we certainly have a good set of tools and ideas and a good understanding representation of community values, things that we'll want to preserve and utilize to make that area a success. And then again, continue to consider these secret flat plans and processes within our budgeting processes as we move forward, and making sure that we have resources available to us to support the type of development or how it proceeds out there. So with your pleasure, Council, you know, those are the recommendations we put forward. I'm open to any questions if you have them.
Okay. Councillor Sproul?
Yes, thank you. I get asked a lot about this by people from outside of Cumberland and within Cumberland. I mean, the concern is the not having the infrastructure to supply right now to these first 6 lots and the regional district. And I say, well, that is coming. But what would be the triggering point? Like, how many people would have to apply to develop? Or are we just going to carry on figuring out what the development cost charges we're moving ahead like with any other development? Like, what will it take for us to really move ahead with getting infrastructure up there? Is there is it a numbers game?
Yeah, through the chair. Good question, Councillor Sproul. And you know, this is one of the challenges we've always identified here is if we were the landowner out there and we had leverage to take that opportunity to put that infrastructure in ourselves, it would be a bit of a numbers game. But we have other options available to us, and we've had conversations more regionally and with industry about partnering or others, or there is an opportunity that perhaps industry itself will see that opportunity and provide that infrastructure that they need for their businesses. So there is no straightforward answer other than continuing to monitor and see what that situation brings forward. But certainly we've acknowledged through this plan that we've put out that water servicing is a key to the development out there. And not just for improvement on those lands and to generate the demand that those lands people are going to want service lots, but then also just to protect that watershed and the aquifer that we're located on. So that's going to be a key to the puzzle. How that is implemented is again, it's not necessarily in numbers. We will be, and this is perhaps a good opportunity to talk about when I talk about future budgeting considerations, is depending on that situation and the way that it unfolds, there may be things as obligations that we have to do. And development cost charges is figuring out how much land is developable out there and figuring out what the cost of a water line is and doing that formula of per acre, what's our development cost charges. So we know that we can cover the cost of the water line when it gets built.
And sewage.
Happening. And sewage is going to be a big one. We put water out there, the demand will go up. And we're going to have a very quick gap where we need to start talking about sewage. But I'm hopeful that we'll be in a better position. We'll be able to represent the demand and see the number of businesses that are expecting out there. And that'll help us generate a bit more leverage as far as the size of project we can do.
Thank you.
Councillor Sullivan?
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add. The committee meeting was good. They had mentioned maybe taking on a little bit more of a scope after some of this stuff, but this isn't really what this report is about. Yeah, I'm excited moving forward.
Councillor Brown?
I'm happy with the report. I did watch the ECDEV committee meeting and heard all their feedback. So that was great. And I was going to make the motion with the land acknowledgement, but I hear that you've got that, Kaylin. So thank you.
No, it was one of the first things they acknowledged. Also, one of the things I did mention they acknowledged was just continuing communication ties and engagement with those groups that are protecting those watershed areas, the Morrison Stream Keepers, and making sure in the future when we're doing other considerations out there that they're part of that information loop. And so we'll certainly do that as well.
For sure.
Councillor Kettler?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I'll assume that's because her internet got cut off, not because I was speaking. Yeah, no, I really like the conceptual plan that's come out of this. I think it's very detailed and has really encompassed all the interests, including environmental. So that's really great. I wanted to sort of ask similar to what Councillor Sproul had asked, to make sure that the motions, the recommendations that we're passing today give you the ability to do the negotiating that needs to happen to get the infrastructure services out there. Will you be able to, start conversation with Fortis Gas, for example, the regional district, other landowners or future businesses out there to start planning what ways that we can get the water and sewer out to those lands. So is that, you feel comfortable that the recommendations today allow you to make some headway toward those goals?
No, I would, Councillor, and I think one of the things it acknowledges is that water out there, servicing out there, is a key part, especially for the ecological protection. So we're going to want to, and also they've acknowledged that is a significant contributor to generating demand for those lands, is to have them serviced. And we do have as you know, a subdivision application in front of us right now, and servicing is something that they're working around and talking about. And so I can certainly assure you that conversations around servicing are happening. And certainly this document helps reinforce the village's position about the importance of servicing out there, and really gives me a mandate, I feel, to seek those types of opportunities. So yeah, I would say it does.
Great, thanks so much.
Well, thank you very much, Kaylin. Thank you very much for a very thorough report. And it is wonderful to finally have it completed the way that we as council and the residents want to see it. And I'm sure they're going to be very pleased when it is developed.
Yes, and thank you, Your Worship. I appreciate it. And the timing is perfect. I think we can really help and capitalize on some of the demand that this has helped generate. So yes. I'm looking forward to it.
Councillor Brown?
Sorry, I just had one more question that I just remembered. Are we packaging up this report on pretty paper and putting it out there somewhere? Or is it just going to rest on the website, or are we doing something specific with it?
Well, I think most importantly, councillors, is it'll be available like any document that we have. But this is an internal document. This is giving some means and understanding for especially our development services and our planning team when they start to think about the tools that they want to create to guide development out there. And this is an easy reference point to them to understand exactly what the values are. But it's certainly something as well that I imagine it'll show up on our news feed, and we'll acknowledge the receipt of it. And I'll certainly add it to my library through my online presence of the documents that we offer. So, but I think potentially it's internal to be an internal document.
Okay, thank you.
Someone like to make the motions?
That council approve the Bevan Industrial Lands Concept Master Plan report and direct staff to include the recommendations within the report into economic development work plans for the Bevan area. And also to direct staff to include in future budget workshops for council's consideration the recommendations outlined in the Bevan Industrial Lands Conceptual Master Plan report.
Seconder? Councillor Sullivan, all in favor?
All right, second.
Thank you. Carried. Next, we have the council received the speed limit reduction report.
Move receipt.
Second.
All in favor? Carried. We've lost Councillor Sproul again. I asked this to be placed on the council agenda. I think that traffic is one of the biggest complaints I get from village residents, the speed, but also all the other things that come with it. And I thought it was time that we as a community need to really look at what's going on out there and seeing. And my understanding, there's an awful lot of communities now in BC that are going this route. Some of them are trying it as a pilot project. Some are asking for a lot of support for our giving a lot of education material to residents so that they have a say in it. And there's different routes that we could take to implement this or at some form of it. So what I'm requesting is that we ask staff to look at different options that could be brought forward to council so that we could start looking at this. So open to questions, Councillor Kettler.
Yeah, I know that a lot of communities are feeling the same way. They would like the 30K limit within municipal boundaries, but it didn't sound like the province was receptive to that. So if the province isn't going to do that, you know, they basically said that municipalities can do it themselves through bylaw. But of course, it puts a lot of pressure on us, both enforcement wise, but also signage, right? You have to put up a lot of signage if you're going to make the whole village a 30K zone. So I think there's a pretty big financial and resource consideration to this, and maybe we would be better off to look at targeting some problem areas rather than ourselves trying to do a blanket 30K throughout the village.
Councillor Brown?
Yeah, I think most of the village is probably pretty easy to shift into 30 kilometers an hour, given our small streets, particularly in the downtown core. But the challenge would be the entries to Cumberland and the road out to the lake, I think. So I wonder, when I first read this, I thought, oh, well, I wouldn't want to do anything without doing a bunch of public consultation. So I'm wondering, because I don't remember where that lies in our strategic priorities, when we might start looking at that.
Okay. Councillor Sullivan?
Yeah, I'm more inclined to agree with Councillor Kettler. I think adding this to the traffic and pedestrian study is a good idea, but I think we're definitely going to find some constraints with pricing, with the signage and stuff like that. But I don't know what else we would do to move this forward. We have to still keep looking at this. Yeah, I'm not totally sold on it either. Yeah, more info will help, I guess.
And that's why the recommendation for staff to come back with a report and use it as part of the traffic and pedestrian study that we're going to be doing in the master plan. So, and it's in the priorities for 2020 and 2023. If you'll read the recommendation.
Sure.
So can I just have, I would actually like an answer to the question of where in the strategic priorities is the pedestrian, because I don't remember a pedestrian and traffic study. I remember a parking study and a conversation around traffic, but I don't, are we looking at that in 2020 or 2021 or 2022 or 2023?
Clayton?
Yeah, Your Worship. So on page 6 of the strategic priorities under quality infrastructure plan and development, number 4 talks about a transportation assessment and specifically outlines a traffic and pedestrian study to commence in 2020 through 2021. And that would be followed, that information that is collected through communication with the community to find out where maybe there are some areas that require specific attention. Would that information and data that was collected would assist in the transportation master plan for 2022. So I think the intent of the recommendation is that based on this information, that this would be fit very well with the transportation master plan that we'd be looking at. And also the traffic and pedestrian study. Council will also, we're just working on another report relating to active transportation. There's a couple of active transportation grants are available. And I think that is another piece that would fit well with what we're looking at gathering information for the transportation master plan. So there's a couple of pieces there that we would bring back to council in the near future about active transportation. And that may not specifically about speed limits, but it does talk to the greater picture and look at that community engagement. So those are a couple of things that are part of the long-term plan, but in the short term, we could start working on what this is going to look like and report back to council what that process might look like.
Thanks.
That's the hope there.
Thanks so much, Clayton. Yeah, I think there's a lot we can do regardless of whether or not we change the speed limit, because speed limits are only as good as the enforcement around them, as we know. But there's a lot of other things we can do, traffic calming things we can do to our streets that I would look forward to looking at in that transportation plan. So that's great. Thank you.
Councillor Sullivan, you had your hand up?
Yeah, just to add quickly to Councillor Brown, a couple years ago, I'd been to Ottawa to my sister's neighborhood, and right in the middle of the street, they had a little kind of plastic divider that said 40K on it, but it was skinny enough that it would stay in the middle and cars could go on either side, but you absolutely couldn't speed past it really. And it didn't seem like, you know, such a tough thing to implement maybe. So just looking at more stuff like that. As Councillor Brown said, traffic calming, if we don't end up, you know, changing the signs and doing the full meal deal.
I think it's well worth a look at. And from what I'm hearing from people, they're getting very frustrated with the people that are driving. I was at a golf tournament on Crown Isle, and they were complaining about the speed that people are going through Crown Isle. So it's just not in Cumberland, it's all over the place that this is happening. And the realization that we have to do something, whatever it's going to be. But my biggest thing is community engagement and making sure the public are on side and are aware, because I'm sure we would get some very interesting and diverse opinions. So if someone would like to make the motion.
Sure, I'll move the council direct staff to include a speed limit reduction review as part of the traffic and pedestrian study and transportation master plan identified in council strategic priorities 2020 to 2023.
Seconder. All in favor? Carried. Next, that council receive the tiny homes article report.
Move receipt.
Second.
All in favor? Carried. Any comments or discussion? And this is adding yours also into it, Councillor Brown?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, Councillor Kettler?
Yeah, so I'll just speak to the article a bit. It's examples coming out of the US, which of course they have different laws, but it absolutely makes sense that the cheapest form of housing would be smaller types of housing, and you could you know, make the case that it fills a very particular place on the housing spectrum of home ownership, but affordable home ownership. So I think it's really important that we look at that, and there are some good proposals here within the Valley to do tiny home projects. The holdup, though, is the BC Building Code, and Squamish actually at this year's UBCM is putting forward a resolution, and I hope you know, you'll all support it, and maybe if I read it out, that others in the Valley can support it as well. It says, whereas communities across BC are experiencing housing crisis, and the full spectrum of affordable small housing forms and options that could meet their needs are not currently available to them. And whereas tiny homes, single detached house units, less than 46 square meters, 500 square feet, distinct mobile homes or recreational vehicles, and meant for full-time living, could support infill densification as well as laneway alternatives. And yet some of their features are not permissible per the BC Building Code, therefore unavailable to communities in need of financially accessible and affordable small housing options. Therefore, be it resolved that UBCM asks the province to work with the BC Building Code Interpretation Committee to review the 14 code changes, ranging from application of the code, definitions within the code, combination rooms, ceiling heights, doorways, stairs, guards, smoke detectors, escape windows, and lateral loads to plumbing fixtures, made at the federal building code level in support of mobile tiny homes in March 2017 by the Canadian Home Builders Association. Be it further resolved, the province should incorporate these changes into Part 9 of the BC Building Code that would define tiny houses as allowable permanent dwellings and thus permit them to be constructed where local government, official community plans, and zoning bylaws deem them appropriate. So I think it's been a long-standing thing, and it really will take these building code changes to achieve what they're doing down in the U.S. here in BC. So I urge everybody to support that resolution. It's resolution NR 71. UBCM committee said no recommendation, however. So again, that's up in the air as to whether it will pass or not. So it needs the support.
Thank you, Councillor Brown.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love the idea and happy to support that resolution as well. The second article that I've asked to be included is another out of our sister city there in Portland, and it's more about different ways we can modify our infill zones. So it's got maximum house sizing, row houses, accessory dwelling units, which we already have. It just has a variety of 4 to 6 plexes, accessibility features, that sort of thing. So I thought we could refer it to homelessness as well as APC, just as a follow-up to our housing needs assessment, and get some feedback on what types of things they might, those two committees might like to see in Cumberland or think might work here.
Thank you. Councillor Sproul? Your microphone's off. You're muted.
Now, can you hear me?
Yes, we've got you.
This has been terrible. My phone, no, I don't know the whole thing. And it just keeps coming and going. So I missed all that discussion about the tiny homes. But the question I have is, do they hook in these tiny home communities? Do they hook into the sewage of the cities? How do they do the infrastructure?
Yeah. I believe the example that was from the US that they do, they plumb into the regular utilities.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Sullivan, you wanted to ask anything?
Oh, I fully support both of those articles. I'd love to see something like this coming to Cumberland.
Perfect time.
Or the Valley or anywhere, really. We need all the help we can get.
Someone like to make the motion then to include the two?
I'll move that council refer the article, if we care about the homeless, we'll build lots of tiny homes fast, the TIE to Homelessness and Affordable Housing Committee for information, along with Portland just showed Vancouver how to fix its housing crisis, also from the TIE, to referred to both APC and Affordable Housing Committee.
Okay. Seconder?
Second.
All in favor? Carried. Next, that council receive the conference attendance fall 2020 report.
Move receipt.
Second.
All in favor? Carried. Councillor Brown, this was your request?
Yeah, so both Councillor Sullivan and I had expressed interest in the virtual FCM Sustainable Communities Conference, which was to be held in Newfoundland. Tragically, we can't travel to Newfoundland, but it often opens up an opportunity for us to attend virtually because we won't have to pay for accommodation or travel. And we've got a little extra travel budget because all the other cancellations of all our other conferences and everybody moving online. So I thought we should bring that forward and see if both of us could attend given the lower price.
Well, I would like to open it up to all members of council that would like to attend, because I think it would be fitting. The costs are really low, and it would be an opportunity for all of us if we wish to attend. So I would like that to include everyone,
Yeah.
to both. Because I was already supported to go to IVIA, Vancouver Island Economic Alliance, but it would be nice to open it to everybody. They're both very informative conferences. And it will be really interesting to see how it's done virtually, because a lot of these times when you go to the conferences, you have to pick one panel discussion. You can't attend two. Where this way, we're hopefully going to be able to watch all the panels that they have. I don't know how they're going to do it, if they'll be at the same time or not, but it'll be really interesting to see. So someone like to move?
Sure.
Oh, unless there's other opinions.
No.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say how great the VIEA conference has. I've been several years in a row now, and yeah, I think it's great. If the more people that can go, the better, including staff.
Okay, so someone make the motion, please.
That council consider approving attendance of all council to both the virtual Vancouver Island Economic Alliance and the virtual FCM Sustainable Communities Conferences.
Okay, second, all in favor? Carried. Next, we have bylaws. That council received the OCP amendment bylaw number 1115 and the zoning amendment bylaw number 1116, report dated August 24th, 2020.
Your receipt.
Second.
All in favor? Carried. Hi, Karen, your microphone is muted. Karen, your microphone is muted. We can't hear you.
Okay. There's something going on tonight.
No, it's just the host
No,
has
but I had problems.
The host has to unmute. You can't unmute yourself, I guess. Yeah, so you have seen these bylaws before. They came to you for first reading in May, early May 11th council meeting. And there's two amendments before you. The OCP amendment would change the land use designation of the new fire hall property from residential to institutional. And then the zoning bylaw amendment would change the zoning of the new fire hall property from small lot residential R2 to PA1 public assembly institutional. So we're presenting the two bylaw amendments for second reading at this meeting and to set a public hearing. Which we were not in position to recommend earlier in May because we hadn't been able to get confirmation of what kind of format a public hearing could take in COVID time. So this is before you now for second reading and setting public hearing date. The hearing date would be on Monday, October the 19th at 7 p.m. And the hearing will be held in the gym of the recreation center next door here to allow for physical distancing between participants. And we'll set it up with COVID safety procedures in mind so that there is distance between participants, counselors, adequate ventilation, and other measures that we have to put in place to make sure everybody is safe.
Any questions? Councillor Kettler?
And how would people submit feedback if they didn't want to attend in person?
Yes, as with other public hearings, so we will advertise a public hearing in the paper and also communicate via our email newsletter that the public hearing is happening, and people can then also submit written comments, either dropping off comment sheets on to us. To our Dropbox by the entrance, or emailing us, or phoning. So same procedure. They still can submit comments prior to the public hearing as yeah, in other cases.
Great, thanks.
Mhm.
Okay. Someone like to make the motion?
Sure, I'll move that council give second reading to official community plan amendment bylaw number 1115 2020. Give second reading to zoning amendment bylaw number 1116 2020. And schedule a public hearing on October 19th, 2020 at 7 p.m. at the Cumberland Recreation Center Gymnasium.
Seconder?
Second.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much, Karen.
Thanks.
That council received the 2021 permissive tax exemptions report for information.
Move
Move receipt.
Second.
All in favor? Carried.
You can probably hear me because I've unmuted myself, but I guess you won't see me, my video. Oh, there we go. Hi. Good evening. This permissive tax exemption comes in front of you every year, and it needs to be adopted by the end of October for the following tax year. So the bylaw is attached for your consideration, first reading for tonight. And so it is based on policy in your financial plan bylaw. And the policy is that you give permissive exemptions to those properties that have statutory exemption through the community charter, such as churches. It also gives, your policy also gives permissive tax exemptions for the municipal properties that are occupied by community groups that have zero rate leases. So that is what's included in the policy, in the bylaw. And the permissive tax exemptions have been advertised as per the community charter, and will come back September 28th and October 13th for further consideration and adoption if given first reading tonight. Yes, that's it for tonight. I can answer any questions if you'd like.
Anyone have any questions? No, then could you make a motion, please?
I have a quick question.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
It says BC Conference Property Development Council. Is that the actual name of the church, or what? That's okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's their name now that they've taken over. It's the it's still the United Church of Canada, but that's their legal name.
Oh, okay. Yeah. For that property.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay.
That council consider first reading of the permissive tax exemption 2021 bylaw number 1135 2020. And that council direct staff to give notice of the proposed bylaw as required by section 227 of the community charter.
Second.
Second, all in favor? Carried. No new business, notice, motions, and announcements. The Advisory Planning Commission, September the 17th at 4 p.m. The Heritage Committee, September 21st at 5:30 p.m. And Accessibility Committee, September 22nd at 10:30 a.m. Question period. Please send questions by email into info@cumberland.ca using subject line question period. Please note, limited to questions only. Comments will not be read. And I have two questions here that were submitted, and I will read the question and then the answer. Why not approve tiny apartments originally proposed by Ride Out? And we have approved small apartments that are DCC exempt. A building permit has been applied for and is in the process for Ride Out at 2727 Dunsmuir Avenue. That was the question and answer to number one. Number two is why is an industrial park being designed in a manner of last century design. The last time we had a design done on the industrial lands was when CVEDs did it 20 plus years ago. This one that has been put forward is totally different than that. We're at a very high end of the project. And so there's going to be a lot of work done from here on as it goes. And if this is Bevan Industrial Parkland, buffer zones and road layout are high level and for guidance as subdivisions are applied for. This will assist the approving officer to avoid ad hoc subdivisions. So it's just the very beginning of the process, and there's a lot of work left to be done. Is there any more questions that have come about?
No, I have no more questions.
Okay. And number 11 on your agenda?
I'll move that council close and adjourn the meeting to the public pursuant to section 90 of the community charter to consider personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employee, or agent of the municipality or another position appointed by the municipality.
Seconded.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much to everyone. I'm sorry, Councillor Sproul, it was your turn.
Yes, I'm afraid I was saying just this week that it hadn't happened to me yet.
Yeah. Well, you and Councillor Kettler, it's happened to you. Who else is next?
Probably me.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.